Okay, chapter 14, The Pursuit of Knowledge. Here you go. Now, James and Charlie are in the garden outside the window, so you might just hear them. Hopefully they won't have a row. And yet, in spite of his assurance to Hattie, Tom continued secretly to consider the possibility of her being a ghost for 2 reasons. Firstly, that there seemed no other possibility, and secondly, and Tom ought to have seen that this was the worst kind of reason, that if Hattie weren't a ghost, then perhaps that meant he was. Tom shied away from that idea. On the afternoon of the quarrel he had been impressed, although he had been careful to hide this from Hattie, by her method of argument. She had a girl's quick eye for clothes, and she had used it on this occasion against him. Tom wished that he were able to do the same thing, but he found that he remembered only vaguely the appearance of the people of the garden. He had, it was true, a strong general impression that they were not dressed like himself and his aunt and uncle, but old-fashioned was the nearest he could get to the difference. Both Susan the maid and Hattie's aunt, for instance, had worn skirts nearly to the ground. Naturally, their clothes would be old-fashioned if Hattie were a ghost. Yet to prove her that, he must be able to put an exact date to the clothes in the garden, and so to Hattie herself. She thought he knew where he could find information. He had often noticed on his aunt's kitchen shelf, together with Mrs. Beeton's and all the other cookery books, a volume invitingly called Inquire Within upon Everything. Now when his aunt was out shopping, he slipped out of bed and borrowed it. He looked in the index for clothing, styles of clothing in the past. There was nothing under styles or under past. Under clothes there were subheadings that Tom would certainly have found interesting at any other time. Loose warmer than tight, and rendering fireproof. But there was nothing about the changing fashions of history. He felt dispirited, as though he had been invited to call and promised a feast, and then, when he had knocked at the door, found no one within. Before he shut the book, however, Tom came by chance across something that proved more useful in another way. On a page headed kindly, "The good is oft interred with their bones," he found a list of the monarchs of England from the Norman Conquest to the present. He remembered that Hattie had once mentioned a monarch of England. They had been looking at Abel's little pile of books in the heating-house, and Hattie had pointed out that the topmost book was a Bible, because Abel believed in the Bible being above all, like the Queen ruling all over England. Hattie then lived when a queen, not a king, ruled in England. Tom consulted his list of monarchs. There had been very few queens in the past. The possibilities suddenly narrowed. Hattie couldn't, for instance, have lived in the 12th, 13th, 14th, or 15th centuries at all, because there had only been kings then, according to Inquire Within. For the same reason, she could not have lived in most of the 17th or 18th centuries. That left the other parts of those centuries, and most of the 16th and 19th centuries. Tom returned Inquire Within, and on the next occasion of his being left alone in the flat, prowled round looking for any other book of useful information. In his aunt and uncle's bedroom he had a find. A complete set of volumes of the Encyclopaedia Britannica in their own special glass-fronted bookcase, kept to hand on Uncle Alan's side of the bed. Tom looked up clothing, and that asked him to see costume, which he did. There were many pages in double columns of small print, whose appearance somehow discouraged him. He preferred to look at the pictures, although none of them really corresponded with what was worn by the people of his garden. He noticed an oddity in the earlier illustrations. The men wore various kinds of leg coverings, but never trousers. The first pair of trousers to be represented was worn by a Frenchman of fashion in the early Victorian period. Tom did at least know that the men and boys in his garden had all worn trousers, with the exception of Edgar, who sometimes wore a kind of breeches with woolen stockings. Hot on the scent now, Tom returned to the volume, turned to T-O-N to V-E-S of the Encyclopaedia, and looked up trousers. There were no illustrations, but the written account was short. In order to clear up any misunderstanding, it began by defining trousers. The article of dress worn by men, covering each leg separately and reaching from the waist to the floor. Well, Tom agreed to that, and read on carefully. The wearing of trousers, it seemed, had been introduced in the early 19th century. The Duke of Wellington had caused a sensation with his. The article ended, strong opposition was taken against them by the clergy and at the universities. See costume. Tom now felt he had enough information to arrange into an argument. Hattie lived when men wore trousers, so she can't have lived earlier than the 19th century when trousers came into fashion. Very well. He remembered Inquire Within, and there was a queen ruling in England in the 19th century, Queen Victoria, 1837 to 1901. She must be Hattie's queen. And then there's the French man of fashion in trousers. He belonged to the early Victorian period. That's where Hattie belongs. That period is over 100 years ago, so if Hattie were a girl then, she must be dead by now, and all I can have seen in the garden is a ghost. The proof seemed final to Tom, but he double-checked it with a question in just the way that would, he thought, have delighted his uncle. What about the long skirts worn by the women of the garden? When had they been in fashion? By now Aunt Gwen was back from her shopping and Tom was innocently back in bed. He tried her with his question. She answered promptly, "Why, Tom, long skirts were always the fashion until not so long ago. Up to the First World War, certainly." Would women have been wearing long skirts at, say, the beginning of Queen Victoria's reign? Oh, yes, or during Victoria's reign and after, said his aunt. Why, there must be so many people alive today who remember long skirts well. Tom, however, was not at all interested in how recently such skirts had been the fashion. He was intent upon a remote past, and in proving that Hattie had belonged to it, and was now a ghost, a little early Victorian ghost. Well, all his information surely pointed that way. The question having been settled to his satisfaction, he put it out of his mind. So, sounds like Hattie is probably a ghost. I wonder if we'll find out.